Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Log Talk with Pert Near Outdoors. Thanks again for joining us, and we are on episode 80. This episode will be a recap of our last hunt of the year. We typically all try to get together and do a group hunt as our last hunt of the year with the muzzleloaders, and this year, again, did not disappoint. We had an up and down day. Was quiet, and then a bunch of action, and then quiet, and then a bunch of action, as you'll hear from Dallas and I as we break it down on our drive home. But we had a great day, a great way to close out the season, and this year was certainly a year different than many others for obvious reasons. But one of the things that was a shining star of the season this year was getting some new hunters out around us, and this hunt was ended up being all about that individual, and that would be Jeff Jones. So super happy the way that this day played out. It could have gone a million different ways, but it ended up giving him the opportunity to punch multiple tags and have a day that I'm sure he will never forget in the woods as he closed out his first year as a big game hunter. So super awesome season as it comes down to for Jeff and for everyone around us. I know I can speak pretty confidently for everybody in our crew, from the Harveys to the Kirsches to the friends and family that hunt that we're close with. It was a very productive season. Everybody had a lot of success, and we're very grateful for that, and a lot of lessons learned as well. So I'm sure in the coming weeks and months we'll have different conversations, and we'll break some of that stuff down. But it was an awesome year. It's hard to believe it's over. It's always bittersweet, but there is a sense of relief once season is over in a weird way, because you can refocus on all the things that you were having a hard time focusing on. So it's good to have it over, but it's sad to see it go. And starting to think about next year is already in the back of our minds, as I know it is many of yours as well. Last thing I want to say before we get going with this episode is this will be posting on Wednesday the 23rd, and we're approaching quickly on Christmas. So I want to wish everyone a happy holiday and a Merry Christmas. And this year definitely will be, again, different, but I hope we all make the best of it, and I hope everybody out there is healthy and doing well, and their families are as well. I know this year we are all thinking about loved ones and people we know who are going through some tough times right now, and feeling very fortunate that we are doing as well as we are, and we've gotten through this to this point. So got that note, and then I'm very thankful for everybody out there who supported us through this last year. This was really our first year with the podcast. I know we started it in the early fall of 2019, but this is wrapping out 2020. I'll have another episode to put out next week. But, as we go into the holidays here, I'm thinking about things. I didn't really say much around Thanksgiving, but been very humbled by the interaction and the engagement, and everybody out there who's been supportive of me and the rest of the guys here at Pert Near Outdoors and what we're doing. It's really fun to build a community. It's really fun to meet new people. New friendships have been built, and there's just a lot of good stuff going on in a time when it seems like everything around you can be negative. To end up meeting new people and helping individuals to find success and find happiness and fulfillment, it really makes you realize what this is all about, and kind of regrounds you, recenters you. So thank you all so much out there, and those of you that are listening, you've been with us since the beginning, and you guys are awesome. You guys and girls are awesome, and we appreciate your support. So have a great holiday, have a great Christmas, whatever it is that you're celebrating. I don't really care. I just hope you enjoy it, and you smile a lot, and hug and love the people that you can, and send a message or phone call or video chat with those that you cannot physically see, and try to make this year as normal as it can. So thank you all. That's enough from me. Enjoy the chat about the hunt, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks.
Hello.
Yeah, that's your
Yeah.
name.
Squirrels got me.
Big Jim.
Yeah.
Really, 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 really cold and fun.
Cold and fun.
Cold and fun.
that's good that you think that of it, because that's what deer hunting typically is cold and fun.
Yesterday morning, I'm glassing up on the pass, and I see these deer moving, and I'm like, ooh, there's some deer moving. All of a sudden, I just see this person just head down, just hauling ass, wearing shorts and a t-shirt with a pack on. And I'm like, is that Tard? My dad always talks about floating through the woods like the autumn breeze.
So Robert's
when you're
the
275 pounds, I don't know how you do that, but
the Freightliner. It's just like a creeper. You're just kind of up in the corner watching what's going on down there.
Yeah.
You know.
He's like,
he's up there slapping, pissing all over everything.
Is it warm yet?
How did you know the name of the actor?
That's right. I know.
Why did you say his name?
Hervé Villagers.
You know what pert near means.
If you know what pert near means and you live in America, you're a redneck too.
Welcome to the Log Talk Podcast, brought to you by Pert Near Outdoors. All right, we're broadcasting live from the Chevy Silverado, closing out 2020 whitetail season here in New York. I'm joined by a fella who's kind of a big deal. His name is Uncle Dallas Kirsch. How are you, sir?
Fucking good.
Yeah, we had a fun day today. We had kind of we went to the area that I've been hunting the last few years and been kind of ranting and raving about, and I've been dying to get you guys get some other people up there with me, especially to do a late season hunt. And we kind of all came together today. We didn't have the group that we wanted to size-wise. We had a couple of guys that had to back out, but ultimately we had 6 of us, and we didn't really get a chance to ever get to the guys. So we had John and Mike came in from the south, and we were kind of working towards each other. We never really we were pretty close. I mean, yeah, I was right across from them. But
I would say that we did as good as we needed to. I mean, if there was any deer between us, they probably were out of there by that point.
Yeah. So, what was your thoughts on the day?
Well, obviously, it turned out to be a fun day. It was a bit of a struggle for most of it, but the point for me today was just to come up here and check this place out. You've been talking about it for a couple of years, and I basically wanted to get one more hunt in. You know, if it wasn't for doing a group hunt today, I probably would have just stayed home and worked. Basically I just came out to check this place out, and it was a perfect day to hunt. I mean, we had...
Oh, yeah. The weather was awesome.
What was there, like 8 inches of snow that was half, it was soft and quiet and actually kind of sticky too, where in the end I ended up slipping and falling a lot, like at the end of the day, but I think I was just getting tired too.
Yeah.
But
and there's nothing you can do on that hill.
It got pretty nasty at the end there, as far as the steepness, but it was a great day to hunt. The temperature was good. The sun was even out a little bit for a little while there.
Very consistent wind. It was pretty good to us there. So we, kind of the game plan was to work up the hill 4 wide and then work south towards John and Mike, who were coming towards us from the other end. And I was I spent a lot of time up here, and I was pretty surprised. I don't want to say disappointed, but I was kind of surprised the lack of tracks and deer sign that I ran into going up the hill. And I was the far left, kind of on the line between private and public.
Sucks to be you, the far left.
Yeah. Why? What's wrong with that? Oh, the far left. I get it, Dallas. That's a very...
I was on the right.
Yeah. You were on the far right.
Right is right.
I was on the far left. We were polar opposites, me and you. And but finally, I kind of started getting into fresh tracks up in the hemlocks in the back, and was right around actually where I shot my buck with my gun. And I mean, these tracks seemed very fresh, and they were just kind of wandering around. I just felt like I was going to bump into these deer at some point, and I came up, right basically, I was 20 yards from where I was sitting when I shot my buck. And I wanted to peek over into this ravine and I peeked over, and I just seen a doe, 2 deer feeding. There was 2 does, and they were digging for acorns and feeding. And so I, first thing crossed my mind, I mean, I'm going to shoot one of these does. I have a doe tag, and I'm obviously trying to maintain my pride and my joy, my Harvey Whitetail, Great American Whitetail Competition Championship. And
What
it's
conference
it's a world-renowned championship. It's very exclusive to just 2 people, and it's either one or the other wins. That's the way it works. And so I had that choice, but then I'm also thinking that this is like 9:30, quarter to 10, and we got a long ways to go in the hunt that we had planned. And here I am, I'm going to shoot a deer down in this ravine, and we're going to have to get it out of here. So I kind of sat there for a moment thinking about the whole situation, and I decided to hit my buddy Jeff up. And Jeff was the closest to me, and first-year hunter. We've had him on here. We've talked about him, and so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna call Jeff and get him down here. These does are just feeding, and I think we could get him. I could get him down to me and get him a shot at one of these deer.
Had you already seen the deer at that point?
Yeah, they were,
okay.
and they were just feeding. And if the one doe, not the doe he shot, the other doe, she was, I don't know if she caught me moving up there, or at this point I was sitting down, and had a big pine tree between me and her, so I could kind of peek out around the tree. So I don't know if maybe the wind swirled or something, or she seemed like she knew something wasn't right. But then the other deer, the one that Jeff ended up shooting, bedded down just to the north of where this other doe was. It was kind of alert. And so Jeff came down. He's right above me. And I'm watching this doe that's kind of up and alert. And I'm like, you know what? I'm like, that doe that's bedded is going to be your best shot opportunity, because she's just seems like she's just chilling. So I was like, why don't you go back up the hill maybe 15 yards and circle around, or not circle around, but just go down and then come down so you're right above that doe. And I was kind of walking him down. So Jeff and I were 15, 20 yards apart, and we're just kind of giving hand signals and stuff, and I'm kind of walking him down. And he got to a point where he could see down the hill, and he didn't know exactly where this deer was bedded. And he was looking, didn't see it, and then all of a sudden he made a move to look again, and he says that he thinks it was the doe that was bedded saw him move, and they both took off running, back to the south. And I, again, I'm like, this isn't really my ideal spot to shoot a deer right here, but if he wanted to get an opportunity, then that's great. But they take off running, so I'm looking at windows out in front of me, areas where I could get a shot, and I didn't have much good shooting. I had a couple windows that they were heading towards, and I'm sitting there waiting, and all of a sudden Jeff shoots, and I see one of the one deer goes through my window and the other one goes through, and it seemed like the one was hit, the second, but it all happened pretty quickly. So it's muzzleloader, so we kind of regrouped, and he came over to me, and I'm like, so you think you hit her? And he's like, yeah, I felt really good about the shot. And Jeff was using my dad's muzzleloader because he doesn't have a gun of his own yet. So we were having some issues early in the morning with dad's shooting. He's got a Thompson Center Impact, and I had the same exact gun. I've never had the issue. The way that the action, or what do you want to call it? Is it the action?
Yeah, the brake.
The brake, the way that opens up, it's got kind of 2 tabs on each side of the hammer. You just pull it back to you, and then it opens up. It breaks the gun open. And we were having issues earlier with it, and then that was working fine. Now we had to pry it open with a screwdriver, but then we couldn't get the cap out. So we don't know what's going on with that gun. There's something going on with it. But Jeff goes up to his backpack, and I'm still sitting there kind of watching down to see if I see anything moving. And all of a sudden Jeff goes, Bill, we got an issue up here. And I'm like, oh no, what did he do, break the gun? and I turn around and look, and he's like holding his finger, and he's like, I'm bleeding bad. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, this isn't good. So I go up there to him, and he had used his knife to try to pry the cap out of there, and his knife slipped, and and he cut his finger bad. It was, it was a pretty deep, clean cut. So luckily Adam had a med kit on him. On that side of things, we ended up, Adam came over and you came over, and we all went down, and we ended up finding, Jeff put a great shot on that deer, probably double lunged it. The way it was running, he hit it right in the pocket on the on shoulder, and it came out just a little bit back based on the angle it was running. But based on being where it was, he double lunged it. That deer didn't go 60 yards. It was a perfect shot. I was super proud of him for that. But he was a trooper. We put, the classic paper towel and electrical tape and a couple Band-Aids. Well, a couple Band-Aids and some electrical tape over the top of that.
Yeah, that was my contribution, the electrical tape.
Yeah, that's like our go-to as a family growing up. Dad and Uncle Mike, we'd be up at camp and cut ourselves, and it's like, yeah, get the paper towel and electrical tape. Everybody will be fine. So we quartered that deer up, and then I would say it was about noon. We were back up to the top of the hill. We had to climb out of there, and
might have even been before. We're lucky that deer didn't run down.
I know
that was not a hill.
Yeah, that was.
That was a steep ravine.
Yeah, it was a ravine. Yeah, it was. I
pretty actually came up out of there. I slid down on my ass first of all. At first, not intentionally, but then after that, I decided that was pretty fun. So I sledded down on my ass all the way to the deer. Billy had to pull his gun out of the way at the end.
Yeah, you were really moving.
But then on the way up, I just went out on all fours. I used my hands because
strap your gun to the backpack. And
yeah, made it a lot easier because I just kept sliding backwards. So that was almost as steep of terrain as I've ever climbed.
Yeah, it's pretty steep right there. And so we, at that point, then we kind of picked back up where we left off on the hunt, and we went a long ways. We went probably 1.5 miles, would you say, where it was kind of just dead. There was no sign. There was not a lot of tracks.
Yeah.
And it's just open hardwoods. There was you could tell there was a lot of boot tracks, probably from end of last week or Saturday. That area got a few inches of snow on Sunday morning, so anything that didn't happen yesterday was covered up, but there was a lot of foot traffic. So I think the deer, I think just walking through there, I think they've been pressured really hard this season. It's kind of my impression on what I saw. But I ended up coming up on a couple does that were bedded, and I took a shot at a bedded doe. She was probably, I'm just going to say 80 to 100 yards, somewhere in that range. I was walking through the woods, and it was pretty open, and all of a sudden something just hit me. Not hit me, but something just I'm looking in front of me, and I'm like, that doesn't look right. And I just all of a sudden I just kind of started making out the shape of a deer's head, and I could see its face moving, chewing its cud, and I was like, oh my God, there's deer right there. So and it was staring straight at me. So the only thing I can figure is that it must have had its eyes closed for it not to see me. I was in the wide open. I had no trees next to me, so I knelt down, and I got a shot. Put it right on the front shoulder, shot, and that deer didn't even move. And I was kind of shocked. I was expecting it just to flip over right there. And I just a clean miss. And so I'm sitting there with nothing around me, nothing to get behind, and I got to reload my gun. I'm like, if this deer gives me another shot, I'm going to be, I'm like, how can I miss? If she ended up standing up in this process, and she's just staring at me. And I'm like, how could I possibly miss here? She let me do the whole process, reload, new cap in, hammer cocked.
She didn't hear you tinking away.
I didn't. I don't tink anymore.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Yeah, I bought a new ramrod that's got that little flip over.
A
little T handle on it.
Yeah, that's what the Encore has.
Yeah, so I bought one of the Encore ramrods.
Oh, okay.
Changed my life.
Yeah,
really has just changed my life. So I, then she was a good broadside shot with that, and I don't know if I just wasn't stable off my knee or what the deal was, but clean missed her. I pulled a big Jim, and just want to make him feel like he's not alone in his struggles. So yeah, they ran off, and I got on their tracks, and I followed them for a long while, for probably 3/4 of a mile. No blood, no hit, no hair. So clean miss, both shots, kind of frustrating, but had an opportunity. So I had a couple opportunities today. I was pretty happy about that. But, for you guys down there, I mean, what was the consensus? I mean, you didn't really cross a whole lot of sign coming across that side hill, right?
No. But while you guys were up top screwing around and getting that deer, there was one track that was a decent fresh track from this morning, and it was heading into our hunt, and it was, we thought we might have been right on it initially, so we were actually hanging back to wait for you guys to come back around so that we didn't get too far ahead of things and push that deer out of there, which I didn't see the track initially. Adam did, but we suspected it was a buck, single track. It looked good. He said it was a good sized track and it was fresh, so we were optimistic about that because it was heading south towards where we were going to hunt anyways. So I first started having him follow that track, and then I decided we better wait for Billy and Jeff in case we need to let them get up ahead of us. And we stood there for probably 30 minutes, 45 minutes. I mean, we were there to the point where I was getting cold. So I called Adam and I said, hey, let's move up this hill here while we're waiting, and either we'll get in the game more from, maybe those guys will push us a deer, or I want to warm up anyways. So we hiked straight up about maybe 10 minutes or so, and Adam called me and said, hey, we gotta go. Jeff shot at a deer and he cut his finger pretty bad. I got a first aid kit, and I said, yeah, I got some stuff too, so let's get over there. And I caught up with, me and Adam met up, and I said, I didn't hear a shot. And he goes, I didn't hear a freaking thing either. I mean, neither of us had any idea that Jeff shot, and he wasn't that far away.
We were just down over the edge and in the hemlocks. I mean, it must have just muffled the sound.
And it's just around the backside of those ridges. Sometimes you just don't hear anything. And
yeah.
So, anyway, once we finished up with that deer and came back out and Adam and I already kind of knew that we weren't going to get into much there, and we actually talked about it before we started, and we agreed that it was open hardwoods ahead of us, and it didn't appear that we were going to see a lot of signs, so we both agreed that let's just move through here quickly until we get into some better stuff. So
yeah,
we had a good game plan at least going forward on that. Like, don't putz around still hunting when there's no deer tracks in the snow. I mean, it's pretty easy to see that you're probably not going to... The best case is a deer's going to get bumped from up top and come running by you. So,
and that's been one of my biggest takeaways this year, hunting in any situation like that where you're in bigger woods where you're just trying to cover ground.
Yeah,
you
got to
don't waste your time. I've done that.
You got to know when to turn and burn as opposed to still hunting. You got to know.
I've learned that from listening to these, like, we had Mark Sheeran on here, and that was one of the things that he talked a lot about. And, like, I've been tuning in more to some of these big woods buck hunters, and I mean, that's the biggest takeaway, and that's probably the biggest suggestion I can make to anybody reflecting on this season, the opportunities that I've had, is just not wasting my time. And I was telling this to Jeff today, is like, especially if you're hunting public land where you're not concerned about blowing up your back 40, like, just go at it. You know, if you know where deer typically are, just go there. Like, go there, like, quickly, get there, don't waste time.
Yeah, and then when you come into a bunch of deer sign, then start to still hunt.
Right.
Or do whatever your plan is. But I noticed that, I mean, still to this day, you're a far better still hunter than I am. I move too fast.
Thanks to Dallas.
I probably spook too
I
many
appreciate
deer.
you saying that.
Well, you're welcome. I'm good at seeing the deer and shooting them, but I'm better off if somebody else can chase them to me.
Yeah.
But I noticed that the first time when we went to Pennsylvania, I was watching you on the Garmin, and it was like an hour of you moving 60 yards in the Garmin, and I wasn't sure if something was wrong or not. And I was like, hey, Billy, can you pick up the pace a little bit? And you're like, well, I'm still hunting. I said, well, we got about a couple thousand acres to cover in the next 3 days.
Right.
I said, I appreciate that you're trying to kill a deer, but you got to move it along a little bit here because we can't sit for 6 hours. So, but that's something you have to learn, and that was a long time ago. But that's something Dad taught me a long time ago was, hey, don't waste your freaking time. Don't waste your time where there's not deer. Hunt where there's deer. And on a day like today, we had to find that out because that was a new spot that we're not used to hunting. And we had to go after it.
That whole section that we worked up the hill, that's the area that I've spent a ton of time hunting. The area to the south, that long stretch that's open hardwoods, that's an area that I I've hiked it a couple times, but I've never hunted it.
Yeah.
Um,
And it probably looks pretty damn good in October.
it
when
looks
there's cover on
fantastic
there.
in October.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially
there's a lot
when
of cover.
the further we went, it got steeper and more of those
Yeah.
steep ravines came up through. I mean, for sure, I could see where that would be a good
And you
spot.
come up to, like, as you work up the hill, there's these benches, and like where I stumbled into those does, there was some goldenrod. There was this bench, and it was a bench, and it comes down, or a little like ledge kind of comes down, and it benches out, and there's all this goldenrod, and they were bedded just on the downwind side of the goldenrod.
Yeah.
In the open hardwoods, up against some logs. They had some logs around them. It was kind of like an ideal bedding spot. And I didn't mention when I was kind of going through the chronological order of what happened today was, I mentioned to you that I had that buck track that I hit as we got going in the second part of the drive, and I came up to this track, and I half wonder if it was the same track that you were talking about, that you and Adam cut. And
Yeah.
I had cut earlier, because the angle at which that deer was cutting across very well could have been the same deer.
There was
where I
two
stumbled into
tracks.
it.
It was the only two tracks. There
Yeah.
was one that was from last night. It was higher than the. So one was lower and it went low down into the private much later. That was the one that Adam was on.
Yeah.
And then the other one was higher and it angled up. So that was probably the one that you ran into. And
Probably.
it was a fresh looking track, but it was melting in the bottom. So I figured it was from last night at some point.
Yeah.
So that's probably
I-
what you ran
Yeah,
into.
I hit the track, and it was headed up right into like some real thick, thorny stuff on the top, and right on the edge of the hardwoods before that ledge drops off, down to the next bench, and there's this thorny kind of crab apple. There's some apple trees in there, and it like crossed my mind. I'm like, this is like the ideal scenario for a buck to J-hook, and you hear people talk about it, and I'm like, I should slow down and start paying attention to my left for him to possibly, because he was walking into the wind's out of the south, he was walking into the wind, and I'm like, this would be the ideal situation. And sure enough, within a couple minutes of that, I took a few steps, and I don't have a buck tag, so I wasn't trying to be overly stealthy. I kind of, in hindsight, wish I would have paid more attention, because it would have been cool to like spot him or not bust him out of there. But
Well,
that buck,
when you're going through it too, you're thinking this could be a good betting scenario for a buck, but afterwards, after it happens, it's like, duh,
Yeah.
idiot, the signs were there, I should have known, but you don't
Right.
know.
and I was lingering just south of that where he was bedded for like 10-15 minutes, waiting for you guys to catch up, because I got out a little ahead, and and I got on that track, and then he ended up being probably 40 yards from me, straight to my left, like he had J-hooked back in. And after I had jumped him, I went in there, and there was like three or four beds where he is bedded basically in the last day, because
Yeah.
the snow has come in. So, and there was a lot of tracks of just a single deer. You could tell it was all the same track. I'm walking around in there. So I was carrying cameras with me today, because I wanted to put up some cameras to scout throughout the winter. So I threw a camera up on that just out of curiosity to see if that's an area where that deer is bedding.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
So I threw that in there. Who knows what I'll get. And I was going to throw a couple other cameras up, but I was looking to find some areas where the deer were really like traveling heavily,
Yeah,
but I
there
wasn't
wasn't any
finding
of
it.
that.
No, there was no consistency. Granted, the snow's fairly fresh, so they haven't had a chance to really track it up yet. But
Yeah, I did find an area where when it started to get steep, where I could see that there was a decent amount of deer had moved through there in between snows,
Yeah.
before the last one. But
so
but I like to see if you find a buck bedding area in an area where there's not a lot of deer traffic, I actually think that's a good thing for a mature buck.
yeah,
I like to see that.
you don't want to see tracks everywhere, right?
And there wasn't a ton of sign on that side hill, but if there's not a lot of buck competition over there, he
Right.
doesn't necessarily need to lay down a lot of sign. So
Right.
I'd be interested to see what that camera shows.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of cameras, I'm kind of hot button item here. I'm kind of pissed off about.
You know what really grinds my
Well, it
gears?
really churns my oil. So I sent, one of the deep down reasons why we did this hunt today was that I wanted to collect all of my trail cameras that I still had out. So I sent other people on.
Yep. You got
paths.
called on it too.
Yeah, I did get called on it at the end. It's cold. So I sent Adam. Adam ended up. I didn't ask Adam. He just stumbled into my camera. And he called me and asked me if it was my camera, and he said it's a Primos camera. Is this yours? I said, yep. I said, check it and see if the batteries are dead. If they're dead, pull it. If they're all right, leave it in there. And he opens it up and he goes, your card's gone.
Jesus.
And I'm like, you got to be kidding. He's like, why would I joke about that? I go, I don't know. I'm like, you must be kidding. It's not really a spot. I mean, obviously it is that people are walking through. But it's really, really frustrating. And this happened to Jimmy this year, too. That somebody went in, walked by, somebody saw his camera and didn't steal the camera. They steal the card. And it, like, obviously, I guess I'd rather have you steal the card, not the camera. But it's like, what's the point? Obviously, I put that camera there because I'm hunting there.
Yeah,
So all you're doing by stealing that card is being a dick.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that there's something you don't want me to know about either.
I think
That's the only thing it's telling me.
I think it's more a competition thing where
You think so?
I think it's their spot and they don't want you there. So they're either trying to send a message that they don't want you there, or they're trying to, just corner that spot,
Yeah.
which, I don't know, whatever. I know that happens on private land a lot because people trespass and then they run into a camera, so they go, oh shit, I don't want to get caught,
Right.
so they take the card. But obviously, in this case, that's not what's going on. But I don't know.
Yeah.
People are possessive over their spots and whatnot, but
Yeah.
I don't know. We hunt a lot of different spots, and we just move around and we find what we like and we hunt it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
But that's it's public land.
I know.
People that are going to claim an area theirs on public land, you're being a pompous ass because it's not yours. It's anybody that can hunt, anybody that wants to go hunt. In state, out of state, don't matter. They can go there and they can hunt it. So I don't know, it's just frustrating. I mean, I guess if somebody's listening to this, I would be interested if somebody has a feeling as to why it's okay to do that. I think it's obviously wrong to do it, but I would encourage anybody to think twice before they steal a card. It's like, if you want to see what's on the card, I could understand that.
yeah, put it in your phone.
Right.
Hopefully you have a card reader on your phone.
Yeah,
and
like,
put it in there and check it and put it back.
I was
that's stupid
thinking to
too,
myself
but-
after the fact. I was like, I wonder if maybe the guy just wanted to check the camera card and he took the card and he was going to bring the card back. But I highly doubt that's possible. But I don't know, just something for people to think about. Something that I came into today. I've never had that happen before, and that was my first today, and kind of frustrated by it. But it is what it is, and we'll move on. So we're progressing through the day, and we get to about 3 o'clock, and we're trying to, I had told the wifey that I would be on the road by 3, and at some point in my adult life, I'll learn to stop promising things that I cannot make happen, clearly.
Stop writing checks that
Stop
your ass
writing
can't
checks.
cash.
Yeah, exactly. You're a bad influence, Dallas. You're a bad influence.
Well, ultimately, it kind of was my fault.
Your family, though, so that's all right.
Yeah.
So it's like 3 o'clock, and we're working our way down the hill, and we're finally getting into like a lot of deer sign. And I think, so I was at the very top, so I crossed the ravine because it was fairly easy to cross for me up there. And I figured I'd just get on the other side to work down because John and Mike were to the south of us, so I figured it can't hurt to have a little more spread out pressure coming down the hill. And so play it out for me because I wasn't with you guys.
Sure. Yeah. So you called me and said we need to start working our way down, which we all pretty much agreed at that point. And you said you're going to cross the ravine and come down the other side. So Adam and myself were together at that point because I had to come uphill because the private property started pinching us down. So
Yep.
me and him kind of just walked together for a little ways there. And I said, well, Billy's above us, so we don't need to get ahead of him. We can wait for him to come down a little bit. But I said, why don't you drop down halfway to the road, and I'll wait here. And that way, if he bumps something on his way down, we'll be spread out and potentially set up for a shot. Because as you said, the things were starting to look pretty good in that area. So Adam dropped down, and I only stood there 10, maybe 15 minutes. Probably not even that much. And I saw Jeff. he was on my side of the draw and kind of working his way down parallel to you. So I kind of just waved at Jeff, and he came over, and he's like, what are we doing? Are we waiting here, or are we going down? I said, well, I just wanted to make sure that we waited, like I say, no sense getting 10 minutes ahead of you.
Right.
Might as well walk down at the same time, have a chance to bump some deer around. So I said, we could probably head down now, so Jeff and I started working our way down that ravine, that draw. The further we went, the thicker it got, and the more little draws started coming up through from the sides and stuff. It was a really cool looking area.
It was cool.
So we probably dropped 100 feet, maybe 200 feet, and we were just about to go over a steep drop. And that's where, as I found out later, that things started getting really steep and really extreme. And Jeff's about, 3-4 steps behind me, and I just happened to look over to my left and spot 2 flatheads chooching up through towards us.
They were coming uphill?
No, well,
Or
they were kind of
quarter
paralleling
away?
below us at that time.
Okay.
And I seen the tracks later. Either you bumped them or John and Mike did. So I probably could have pulled up. I couldn't have shot him right then, but if I shot a deer today, I was going to give it away anyways. I've had a hell of a season already. I don't care. I just said, Jeff, there's deer right there below us. I said, get yourself set up for a shot. First I thought they were going to come up the draw to our left, and then they turned, and I realized they were going to go down below us, it looked like. So he kind of just shuffled into position and got ready, and we didn't see him for like a minute or so. And all of a sudden, they're going back up the hill, not right from where they came from, but kind of up that same draw. And he got in position, and I don't know if the guy needed coaching. I know he's no dummy or anything, but I was kind of just like helping him through the situation. I just kind of get them lined up, and I said, look, there's an opening up here, and it kind of looks like they're heading up that way. And I said, when they get into that opening, I'll stop them if I need to. And then they paused, and they waited there for like probably 30 seconds or more. And it's like, I think they're still going to do it, but they needed to clear that spot. So I hit him. He was leaning up against a tree, so he had a good rest and everything. And finally, the lead doe, which was a good doe, stepped into the opening, and I was thinking I was going to try to give her a bleat and stop her, and he just did what I probably would have done, which was just touch one off right as she, because he probably had his crosshairs all lined up and everything. So
Yeah.
he touched one off, and I seen her jump and mule kick and head up the hill. I said, you hit her. Looks good, So she ran up the hill and got to the top, and I said, I'll handle a follow-up if we need one. And she stood up there, and I'm looking at her through the scope, and I said, I can't really tell. I'm pretty sure you hit her, but I'm just going to go ahead and, have a little fun and touch one off myself. So
Yeah.
she was probably about 100 yards across the other side of the ravine, and there was a decent amount of stuff in the way. But I shot, and she dropped, and she let out a... So I go, oh, we got that one.
Yeah, that was it.
So at that point, Jeff's gun wouldn't open again.
Yeah, he's having more issues.
Yeah, he couldn't get the gun to open. So I think before I could even reload mine, he's like, oh, we seen a bunch of deer is what happened after that.
Yeah.
He couldn't open his gun. He couldn't break his gun open, and all of a sudden we see like 6 more deer run up the hill, and I'm thinking they're heading towards Billy, but they kind of just scattered and went every direction, like they didn't know what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
So he's like, all of a sudden Jeff goes, I can't open my gun. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to reload and give you my gun. He goes, there's a buck down below us. So I gave him my gun, and he did a good job. He snuck over the little knoll there that you couldn't see, and got lined up, and I see him kneel down and line up on the deer, and I couldn't see I never did see the deer. And he touched off another one, so I kind of cruised up to him, and he's like, I think I hit him. He's up there, and I'm looking. I'm trying to see. I can't see anything. So I grab. He's like, pretty sure I hit him, but he's not dead.
Yeah.
So I grab the gun back from him, and I load up again, which is my last load. So we got one gun that doesn't work and one that's on its last bullet now. So we're having ourselves a muzzleloader rodeo at this point. So I load up again, and I give him the gun, and I said, well, you need to go down there and follow up on that shot, and I need to go across this ravine before we get any lower and retrieve that doe.
Yeah.
So we split up, and it's not 30 seconds.
No, it wasn't long.
And I hear a shot, and I thought it was Jeff, but it turns out that it was Adam.
Yeah, Adam must have been just down the ridge from you guys or something. I'm not sure.
Well, he was, yeah.
There was all those little fingers and ravines. Like, it didn't
Yeah.
seem like there was that many.
It's crazy the
between
way
us,
everything
but
comes
there was.
together there.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Letchworth, the way everything just comes together, and you can't see it on the map because
No.
the terrain changes are too small to show on the map, but yet they're steep and nasty, and
Yep.
just the deer can hide in there forever.
Yeah, so Adam ended up coming over and seeing that buck on the other side of that ravine, and he put a good finishing shot on him and dropped him right there. So there was a lot of like confusion on the radio, like understanding like who shot, what's down.
Yeah, we want
What
to
do we got?
communicate to know what's going on,
Yeah.
but sometimes it gets a little overwhelming.
And when you're in there, it's like those shots we were all in a small area, but you got those little changes, those little draws and those ravines, and like the sound just like doesn't seem like you didn't even like you were not far from those two guys, and you weren't even sure who shot.
Yeah.
I
I was certain it was Jeff right until after we were back.
Yeah. So then that was at like, I don't know, what was that?
3:30.
3:30, quarter to 4.
Yeah.
And it took all of 45 minutes to get down the hill with those two because it was just so steep. I was watching both of you guys. I could hear just stuff smashing and breaking with you coming down that ravine right below me. And then I was watching the ridge, a couple ridges over, as Jeff and Adam were bringing the buck down. So, but all in all, I mean, we get back to the truck, we load the deer up, and it's like Jeffrey's big adventure.
Yeah.
Every time we do anything, it's like yesterday was Emma's big adventure,
Yeah.
and
We got to
today
we
was
should
another
talk
new
about
hunter's.
that a little bit. That was a
Yeah.
hell of a day too. But yeah, today it was Jeff. 5 years ago yesterday, December 20th you posted the memory
Yeah.
on your Facebook. It was
Billy's
where
Big Adventure.
that's where it started,
Willie's
was
Big
Slick
Adventure.
Willie's Big Adventure.
Yeah.
We named it the first time we took him on a big backwoods muzzleloader hunt.
Yep.
I tell you, we do these late season muzzleloader
It's so
hunts,
much
and
fun.
there is no, I mean, like the number one fun thing of the year is Pennsylvania hunt.
Yeah.
There's no doubt but like a close second is a lot of these hunts that
Just
we do
day hunts.
in the late season, especially with the muzzleloader. It's just because we usually have snow and decent weather. And
when
we
you
go
get
in
into
these
'em, you
big
just get
public
into
land
'em.
tracks, and yeah, we just end up running into a pile of deer. Like, look how hard we fought today. Like, we
Yeah.
found, you guys got into a couple deer this morning and killed one, and then we battled all day long. Just, before all that unfolded in the end, me and Jeff were talking about, and Adam before that too. We were all talking about like how, that side hill didn't work out too good. It doesn't look too promising for the future or anything like that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't on that side hill. We were down lower when we ran into those deer,
Right.
but they got kicked by either you or John and Mike.
Yeah,
so,
there was a ton of sign up where I was at the end.
So we just found out that a couple mile long stretch of side hill. It's not a surprise that some of it is good terrain, is good habitat, and some is not. You have to find that out at some point.
Yeah.
And I think what better time to do that than with a group of guys during muzzleloader season with snow on the ground, and because you learn a lot, and also you usually end up killing 2, 3, 4, or 5 deer
Right.
in the meantime, because that's pretty much what we
Just
always
what
end
happens.
up with.
Yeah.
So I mean, last year last year, since we started this tradition, now this is like the 5th or 6th year we've done this. Last year was the only time we haven't killed a deer.
Yeah. And we didn't have snow.
And we didn't have snow,
That
and
was-
it was really tough going.
Yeah.
If you hunt these big public land places in the late season, you need unless you've got a little cherry of a spot left that you can go after. I mean, you really just need something to help you out. Snow being the best thing for sure.
No doubt. No doubt. Yeah, so that was a wrap on today. Today was awesome. It was a great way to close out the season. Couldn't be happier for Jeff. You know, he had, you know, he hunted extremely hard this year. For a first-time hunter, you know, he was very determined. He shot that buck, freaking super fortunate. He had that opportunity in first morning of archery, you know, October 1st at 7:30 in the morning, whatever it was.
On the first day he's ever
hunted. You know, we shot a buck with his bow, and it was a perfect shot. The deer went, you know, sounds like it went like 15, 20 yards and died. So like he had just an easy peasy experience, and then the whole rest of the season, like he's been at it and he just has not had opportunity, and he's been really frustrated. So to take him out like this, you know, for him, he's been hunting solo by himself, and to take him out, this is his first like group hunt, and for him to shoot 3 deer, you know, fantastic. I mean, that's an awesome way to close the season out, and I can tell you right now, that's an individual that is completely obsessed now. Yeah. We've ruined another man.
I've never killed 3 deer in a day.
No.
I suppose he had a little help along the way there, but
he did.
Still,
but
what a fantastic
you know,
day.
for somebody who's not been around this his whole life, he seems pretty, like Jeff is, he's very intuitive on like how to approach things and how to move, and I'm impressed with somebody that doesn't have any experience at all.
Yeah,
that
for
didn't
sure.
grow up around it.
Yeah.
He's doing a great job, so it's awesome. So you want to talk a little bit about your adventure yesterday, Emma's big adventure, or do you want to save that? I feel like we need Trigger for that story.
Well, Trigger was, I think we got enough to talk about with Trigger and everything with our
enough.
whole season recap and stuff that we need to do here soon.
Right.
So I'll just do the it'll be a muzzleloader recap today. There's a deer right there. So
I'm gonna let's stop here. I gotta get some milk. I'll hit the pause button.
Okay.
And then we'll pick back up where we left off. Hold, please. Thanks for listening. Log Talk with Pert Near Outdoors.
For now.
We might change it, but I don't know about that still. Quite not sure. And we're back.
Hello.
So run us down memory lane of what happened on the Sunday of one Sunday of muzzleloader season. A whole bunch of deer came to be in the back of the Dodge Ram.
Yep. So
Did you like my song?
that was pretty good.
I just made that up. Did you know?
Yeah. So Saturday, Trigger calls me and says, "Hey, we're going down to such and such a property where we used to hunt a lot, and we still have permission there, but we haven't hunted there all year." So they kind of did that was actually 2 properties. So they did a check on permission to make sure we were still good to go. He goes, "Hey, we're good to go. We're going down there tomorrow. We're going to do a quick hunt. 7:30, meet you down there." So
I just want to say I'm upset. I wasn't even a thought.
well,
I wasn't even invited.
I did think of you, but
Did
then
you?
I thought, what would happen if I were to ask you?
Yeah,
to go
I would
yesterday?
have told you no.
And we didn't. And we also don't want a big crew going down there and just blowing up things. Not that we didn't blow them up anyways, but 4 of us were enough for that.
Right.
So, so we've done. We haven't gun hunted there in a long time. We've bow hunted, and then we've gone down to this spot a few times in the late season and really had some good luck, run into a lot of deer. So I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be a good time. So I talked to Emma, and she had wanted to go hunting Saturday night, but she had some issues at home where she was told that she couldn't go hunting on Saturday night with Grandpa.
Boy.
So I told her, if you want to redeem yourself and be good for the rest of the night and go hunting with us tomorrow morning on your 9th birthday. I said, I know you don't like mornings, but we don't have to get up until like 6:45 tomorrow. I said, I'll wake you up at 6:45. We'll go, and I said, we're going to be walking around and chasing some deer around. I said, you'll have a good time. So I'm like strongly hinting that I want her to go. She said, okay, I'll go. So we go down there and hunt the one side of the road and didn't see much. But we seen a ton of tracks and beds that were a couple days old. So we're figuring when we go across the road into what we know is the better spot that we're probably going to run into a pile of deer. So Emma goes up with Grandpa to the one end of the woods as a sitter, and he's had a bad year. To preface this all, he had shoulder surgery in October, so he didn't get to bow hunt at all, and then he gun hunted with one hand for like 3 weeks, and he's just getting back to the point where he can shoot a gun offhand. So he's looking to put his tag on something, you know. So me, Brad, and Brian go in from the top side of the property, and it doesn't take long before Brad's got some deer moving. So 4 of them come up through towards me, and I put a doe on the ground. And it's not a minute or two later, I hear trigger shoot. I'm like, well, I know that's a dead deer.
Yeah, right.
So I go, what do you got? And he's like, that doe. I don't see her, but I don't think I could have missed her. So all of a sudden, a minute later, he goes, I think I hit a tree. Okay. Well, right after that, we hear a gun go off down at the other end of the woods. Robert shot something. I couldn't hear him on the radio, so I didn't know what he had, but I think he predetermined he was going to shoot the first thing that came by. So a spike it was.
Yeah.
Spike down. So.
And Emma was with
Robert.
Yep.
Yeah, her grandfather. So, and she's been with me for plenty of deer kills, but this is the first time she's ever done something like this, which I don't even want to call it a drive, but kinda, you know.
Yeah.
I knew we were going
It's
to
a
have
group
some
hunt.
deer moving, so. So we go. The 3 of us kind of split up again, and there was 4 deer that I shot the doe out of, so I ended up catching up with the other 3, and they got around me, and I wasn't real concerned about shooting any more deer at this point anyways. So then I come up over a ridge, and I run into 5 or 6 more deer, and then I see this buck bedded 15 yards in front of me. He's bedded over the backside of a steep ridge looking down with the wind blowing over his back, so pretty ideal buck bedding setup. Doesn't have a clue I'm there for some reason. I end up taking a video and whistling at him and finally getting him up and moving, and after he got up and ran, I realized he was injured, which is, you know, usually when you walk up on a deer that you wonder why they don't know you're there, it's because they have some sort of an injury.
Yeah. Something's not
You end
right.
up finding out, you know. So he runs away all gimpy, and I'm like, shit, I wish I would have known that. I could have just shot him right there in his bed. So I let the other guys know that there was a injured buck that was he was a 2-year-old buck that was busted up. I kind of let him know that. He had busted tines. So about that time, I hear another shot. And it's not too long after that, I hear another shot. So Trigger ended up missing another doe. Robert missed something, whatever the second deer was that came by him. So I get across a small ravine, and I'm looking down over this steep bank, and I see a deer working its way down real slowly, acting like there's something wrong with it. So I get the scope up, and I see that it's a buck, and it looks like, eventually I made out that it had broken tines. It looked like a decent rack buck with broken tines. I'm like, oh, that's that wounded buck that I kicked up.
Yeah.
Oh, by this time, Dad had shot a 3rd time. So I figure there's that buck that I seen. I'm like, you know, it's not that it's a buck that I want to that I really want to shoot, but it's like I kind of have a thing where if I see a wounded deer,
Yeah.
I'd rather shoot them. I don't know what their injury is necessarily, but it's like I'd rather have them get killed by a deer hunter and be eaten than have coyote or bear or crows.
And
eat
you're
'em,
sitting there. It's
you
the
know.
last weekend of season.
Yeah, I mean-
you got your archery muzzleloader.
Yeah, I have a
sex
buck tag. Yeah, I can
And we
shoot
don't
a
have
buck.
anything that you're really in particular after.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, I mean, I think that's the ethical thing to do. You see a deer in that situation.
Yeah. So I shoot that deer and he runs off and I see him go down. So I'm like, all right, we got that one. So I get up to Dad and find out that he's the one that actually shot that buck that I had seen. And if you're wondering, you can shoot 2 bucks in the late season because he hadn't shot one all year and both of your tags transferred to the late muzzleloader season. You can use either tag or both. So he had 2 bucks down and I had 1 plus a doe. So it turned out that when I went and recovered the deer that I shot, the buck, he did have an injury. I don't know if these two were fighting or what, but the one that I saw originally that was injured had a broken front leg, and then the other one had his eye stabbed by presumably a tine, since he also had a broken tine. He ended up being a 1.5 like 8-pointer that had a broken tine and an eye that was about to fall off, and his opposite side ear was all infected.
Jeez.
I mean, so we kind of took a couple of weak ones out of the herd, and they otherwise seemed okay as far as I don't think that we'll have any problems with the meat or anything like that. So, so Emma got to sit with Grandpa and kill 2 deer and miss another one. So it was, all in all, it was another fun muzzleloader adventure.
Yep. And it's awesome that she had that experience too.
Oh,
I told you this morning, like
she was thrilled.
That girl just, she just makes me so happy. Like seeing her with this, with that huge smile, holding those bucks, like.
Yeah. So
she's awesome.
Not
that your other girls aren't, but
yeah, but
Emma's got a special place in my heart.
She's definitely got that in her. She really likes being with us and doing this kind of stuff and
riding the 4-wheelers, watching her drive the
drive
the Honda around and things, like bucking her all over the place.
But she wants to be active. She doesn't want to sit. She doesn't like to stand around and drink beer afterwards,
right.
And she doesn't like being called a bushwhacker.
Right.
So
She'll learn.
Yeah,
Give it 15 years.
Probably in time, but
not even 15 at this point, Dallas. That's kind of scary.
Yeah.
Well,
she wanted to have her
15.
She wanted to have her picture. No, she's 9 now.
Right.
Yesterday
So
was her 9th
legally
birthday.
11, 12.
She wanted to
12
get a
years.
picture taken with every buck, and she did.
Yeah.
So did you get the messages that I was sending? Obviously, you called me back, so you knew something was up. But we got 3 bucks and took 3 pictures, and
Yeah.
I sent you a separate text every time, and
Yeah.
everyone said didn't go 20.
Yeah.
So it came.
I got 3 pictures of 3 bucks with Emma, and I'm like, oh, what's the story? I called you immediately. I'm like, what's the story here?
She's like, Billy's calling. I'm like, no shit.
Yeah. Is that right?
So I wanted to come through on your end. Didn't go 20.
Yeah.
Didn't go 20. Didn't go 20.
Yep. When the trigger's gold, they fold. Or whatever it is he says.
Yeah. So
What a cultural icon that Rut Daniels is. Guy's amazing.
Yep.
So yeah, it was a hell of a weekend. You
Yeah, so I was in on 7 deer kill with the muzzleloader this weekend, or Sunday, Monday, that is.
like 12 hours.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's a great way to finish the season. And overall, at the end of the day, 2020 was one hell of a deer season. And I look forward to doing an actual recap, getting us together here. I want to be able to let our hair down and have a little fun together and not be freaking covered up and everybody concerned about health and everything else. So
Yeah.
we'll wait a few weeks here, let the holidays get past, and hopefully things calm down a bit, and we can get all together and do a little recap about the season. We got a lot to talk about. You and I this morning were talking. We'd like to do a breakdown podcast on the new DEC deer hunting plan, the 10-year plan that they're putting out.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be good to break some of that down and talk about it. Some of our thoughts. We're not experts. We're just regular guys that are looking at this and trying to understand, how does this affect us and affect our
Yeah,
our deer hunting. So
yeah, and I think we have a more reasonable view than your average hunter.
Yeah.
I think we look at things with I'd say a pretty good perspective that, I think we have a good perspective on what they're doing. Mostly good too, but we want to talk about it.
We hunt a lot of different areas. We hunt public, we hunt private. So we have stuff that we can control ourselves. We have things places that we go and just hunt without any real concern about size or whatever. We're just out there to kill deer and have fun. So
And also permission properties.
oh, here comes the big guys calling. So, well, we're pulling into the ranch here, Dallas. We'll wrap her up.
Okay.
Appreciate you coming with today. It was a freaking blast. I'm glad we put some deer on the ground and made some more memories, buddy.
Hey, angry wives are temporary. Memories are forever.
Yeah. Legends never die.
Feed them.
See ya.